Okay.
I do that as well. Yeah.
Hello and welcome to another episode of UniEE TV. You'll never guess, you can probably see, here he is, he's back from his travels, it's David Bell!
Hello, Nick. Wow, it's great to be back on the show. I missed last week. As much as I was busy running around, very frantic, getting organised, trying to get the car packed up, my 4-year-old running around, super excited. I was still tuned in. I was still listening and enjoying the show that you absolutely run like a master. Fantastic job. You managed the technology as well.
I guess I was quite lucky. I was very, very fortunate to have great guests, Rachel and Mo, who kind of held things together while I faffed around with the technology. It was great. Really, really exciting. Right, but much better with you back, my friend. It takes the pressure off, and great to have your kind of input and your views, and bounce these ideas that are in my head off someone who kind of thinks slightly differently.
Yeah, and we are a little bit different. As much as we work well together, we broadcast world together. We've got different opinions. I'm a tech guy. I love tech, and I'm not saying you don't like tech, Nick, but you're a real world man. You like to be face to face, and you like the cuddles and the creature comforts around you.
Who doesn't like the cuddles? Hey,
I
absolutely,
love the
man. Absolutely. I was speaking at an event earlier today, talking about technology, talking about the good and the not so good aspects of it. Right? What would we have done without great tech over the last 12 months? Right? And I know we're going to talk in the show about some of the habits that we've developed over the last 12 months that we kind of want to keep. Okay, so there's some positives. And the tech, great tool, brilliant tool if it's used really well, massive distraction if it isn't used very well. And we're trying something new, aren't we, today?
We are indeed. So not only are we streaming out to Facebook, which some of you might be watching us, so hello to our Facebook viewers, or maybe you're joining us on YouTube. Hello to our YouTube viewers. But we're also streaming for the first time into Clubhouse as well. We're doing the audio version, and we're going to see how that goes. And if it works well, we'll keep streaming it out to Clubhouse in the future. We debuted last night on Clubhouse, didn't we, Nick? Well, it was an experience.
We did. I liked it. It was a bit like a live podcast that you could join in, right? And you could participate. Really interesting conversations. Great to have bounce ideas off other people, and it had a real podcast style feel. So I think we'll be doing more of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it actually, because what we want to do is we want to reach as many people out there as we possibly can, and we want them to, not whether they're watching, whether they're listening, we want them to participate. We want to hear your questions, hear your opinions, see your views. So if you are tuning in and you want to shout out, firstly, use the chat box. You can't do that on Clubhouse, but if you are watching on one of the Facebook or YouTube channels, pop your comments in the chat box. We're more than happy to give you a shout out, give a wave to your business, tell people who you are and what you do. And if you like the things we say, agree with us, fantastic. Of course, if you don't agree, then let us know as well. That's what this is about. It's about, having the ability to have your opinion and have your say.
Yeah, ideally, it's a really healthy conversation. It's a platform for sharing knowledge, ideas, strategies, techniques, helping everybody get better at this thing that we call business. But also, hearing from other people, right? Comments, questions, clarifications. I think far too long, content has been kind of one way. Right, I've got some stuff for you, blah, and there is. Right, this isn't a PowerPoint show, for God's sake. This is a conversation. It just happens to be streamed across multiple different channels. So if the audience don't join in, Dave, it's just me and you chatting, right? Which is great, but would be better with input from audience.
And of course, it is only you and I at this point, but we still have some great guests this week. What a lineup we have! We have a great lineup, and very shortly we'll be introducing to our first special guest who's joining us on the show. We won't give too much away just yet, and then we're gonna, have a really good conversation. We're gonna find out how you can achieve your greatness in your business, and then later on we've also got someone that's going to be telling us a little bit more about how to potentially finance your business and how to build a really super kind of model to grow your business as well. So it's going to be super exciting. We've got two really interesting people joining us on the show today.
Very excited. For me, mate, every day is a school day. Learning all the time, ears kind of wide open, and I'm like a sponge these days. Right, I'm choosing carefully the content that I let into my head because I don't want to, be overwhelmed. Don't want to be drowning in stuff. So only the really good stuff. But I'm a sponge. I'm soaking it up. Every conversation, I'm thinking, yes, yeah. Every podcast I listen to, I think, yes. And this is very much along those lines. It's exciting. I love the fact that we have excellent, knowledgeable, experienced guests coming on the show, and they're prepared to share their secret sauce with us and the audience. Very cool.
Very cool indeed. So, Nick, the other thing we want to kind of talk about on this show, it's been 365 plus days, just over a year, since the first lockdown happened on March the 23rd, 2020. Now, I want to know how our viewers, our listeners, if you're on listening from our audio platform on Clubhouse, what have you experienced over the last 12 months? What's happened to you? Have you had to pivot your business? Have things dramatically changed for you? What have you done? Have you had more family time because you've been working from home? Have you utilized that family time? Or have you just been working more when you're sitting at home? And it'd be really good to get people's feedback, opinions about what they've been up to over the last 12 months and where they see the future going to. We had that crystal ball, we'll give it a rub and we could see what the future holds, but no one knows that. But what are opinions out there? What are people thinking is going to happen in the next 12 months, maybe? Are we going to get a summer holiday? Are people going to be able to travel? Who knows? Who knows?
We don't know. Don't know enough, do we? Don't know enough. One thing for certain, though, things in business have shifted, right? For all sorts of reasons, and which we know very much about, people have either had to shift or the dynamics of how they do business has shifted. And it doesn't look like, looking at the reports, and I will talk about this in the news section, it doesn't look like we will go straight back to the way things were. I think it might look a bit like that, but I don't think we're going back to the way things were at all. I think we are evolving into a new shape of what business looks and feels like. And it'd be great to hear from the audience thinking, right, well, for me, it's this, and for me, it's that, right? I'm never working 5 days a week ever again. It's 4 days for me, if that. I'm never going to have an office. I'm going to work from different countries, different months. It'd be great to kind of hear where people are at with that.
So we're talking about working smarter as well, which is a really interesting, because I think this part is where it leads really neatly into our first guest for today. This lady doesn't need any introductions, but it would be only fair to introduce her because we want to give her a big warm welcome, a huge round of applause. I have never met our next guest face to face, but we just established in the green room before we run the show that you had met Nick and you wasn't even aware of it. But I have met this lady a number of times virtually over the last several months, over the last 8 or 9 months since lockdown started. And I said to our guest, come on the show because you've got some great information to share, some great conversation can take place. So please welcome onto our show our first special guest this week, Emma McNally from Emma. Oh, you are there? Yes, hello.
Hi. Hello. How are you guys?
Very well.
Very, very well.
Stage.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. Super excited to be here. Thank you. Awesome stuff.
So Emma, welcome to the show. Thank you.
Go on, David. I've got so much to ask. You best start. Go on.
I'm going to sit back and enjoy it.
All right. Yeah. It turns out, right, we shared some space in a mutual book signing, didn't we? We were in Waterstones in Chelmsford. My lovely daughter was signing her book. You were signing your books, and then we didn't realise until we were kind of fishing through this conversation, and then the penny dropped. And there we are. We'd not only met, but we share a very common interest. So great to have you on the show. Emma, let's start at the beginning, right? Achieve your greatness. Who on earth are you? And what is Achieve Your Greatness?
Absolutely. Thank you. So Achieve Your Greatness is my company, and it's a neuro-linguistic programming and NLP training school. So we're an accredited training school. NLP is all about performance psychology, which is totally awesome within business, and applied neuroscience. So it's about bringing those two together. It's creative through modeling people and companies that are excellent in their field so that we can become exceptional in ours. So yeah, very much about modeling other people, about learning and development. You were just saying about, the sponge and taking it all in. So it's very much about personal and professional growth. So yes, so that's what we do. Yeah, through training.
Now, Emma, so I've only ever met you virtually. We've not had the pleasure of being in the same room. Well, actually, we did many moons ago, I think it was, at a Breakfast Network meeting. But since then, obviously, we lost contact, and then we kind of bumped into each other in the virtual networking world, as you do. And this week, wasn't it? At the beginning of this week, we did a national webinar, which was fantastic, so well attended, hundreds of people in the audience. And you were sharing so many top tips about how to structure yourself, your mindset, how to get your business to achieve your greatness. And some of that stuff you shared was kind of, we've all heard some of it before, but to hear it, again, obviously allows us to go, wow, yeah, of course, why am I still doing that? But what are some of the top tips that you could share with our listeners and viewers this evening about how they could be better?
Yeah, absolutely. So the model I was sharing with people was one created by a guy called Robert Dilts, who's amazing within the NLP world. And what we were talking about was congruence between the levels of your business. So what that means is, thinking about your vision and making sure that vision isn't just about what you want to achieve, but what are you doing for your customer that's bigger, that's wider, that's going to make the world a better place and more sustainable? What is it that's really gets the fire in your belly and gets you up in the morning, and that real ambition to drive that dream forward? So very much we were talking about that level. And then we were talking about, well, where do you sit in the market? Yeah, what's your identity? Are you the Lidls of this world, or are you the Waitrose? Are you the boutique shop? Who are you? Yeah, so to understand where you sit, and is that aligned to your vision? Yeah, is it aligned in terms of your purpose? And then we looked at your beliefs and your values, and that was where it starts to get a bit interesting, because for those of you who are small companies, what happens is your beliefs in your business tend to be your own beliefs too. So, and we're only limited by what we're thinking in our minds. So how can we change that? And how can we move forward so that our beliefs and our values are aligned to our identity and our purpose? And then we talked about capability, which fits nicely into the learning, and not just being good at your job, but you've got to be good at how you interact with people, how you negotiate, how you work with people, and how you can create that really awesome success around your capabilities and how you do what you do. And then we talked about behaviors, what we say and what we do, and the congruence with those, and how we talked about stage. And that, that's what our customers see, is what we see, and what we say and what we do. But it reflects our values, it reflects our beliefs, it reflects the mission and the vision of the company. So making sure that there's congruence throughout of what we're saying is actually aligned. And then we talked about the environment that we work in. Obviously, we're all online at the moment, but what's that like? Do you make it a great place? You can still give energy across, even if it's online. How do you make your customers feel super special? How do you do that? And making sure that that's, again, aligned. So we talked about congruence, alignment. We talked about Jenga, didn't we? So if you think of a Jenga stack, if you think of all of those levels, if any of them are missing, it's all a little bit wobbly, and how making sure that you've got all of that aligned can really help. So yeah, so that was briefly, which took me about 40 minutes to say on Tuesday, didn't
it? Such is the value, right? The value of live interactions. Masses of stuff in there, and really kind of resonates with me. The talk I was doing this morning was all about how to have more human interactions online, and we talked about authenticity, which I guess is very similar to this congruence. And I'm a massive fan of body language. Really enjoy kind of training people on what to recognize, and a big part of that is the body language congruent with the words that you are using? Because us humans will, if the words don't match what we see, we'll go with what we see. So huge, but this is even deeper, isn't it? So it's hugely important for, let's say, me and my business to be massively congruent. I kind of know that feeling. I know that epiphany that I had a couple of years ago, and it dawned on me that I shouldn't do the work that I don't enjoy. Right? I got to a certain point that it doesn't serve me or my clients. Just do the fun stuff, right? Only work with courageous organizations, because otherwise things don't change. So do you is it a challenge, right? So I get NLP and an amazing kind of process to go through. Do you find your clients really struggle, saying, you're blowing my mind, Emma, I can't process it? Or is it once it kind of sinks in, does everything shift?
Yeah, okay, so it's really interesting. It's a really interesting question. So what happens on courses, there'll be times where there's a lot of information, there's a curiosity of what's next. By the end of the course, all of those pieces in the jigsaw just fit nicely into place. And the aha moments, the light bulb moments, that's what gives me joy. You say about joy within business and what really sets you alight. Well, that's that moment where it's like, oh, got it. So that's why that's happening. That's, oh, I thought it was X, but it's not, it's Y, isn't it? And actually, now I know that, things will be different. So yeah, there's, when you're learning, there's always we call it stretching of your map of the world, okay? So if you think about it, we have our own version of reality, and we've spent many years, some of us more years than others, creating this beautiful world that we live in, and we're like, this is how the world works, this is it. And by reading, by learning, what you're doing is you're stretching that map, and you're becoming curious, and you're being able to create basically new neurological pathways in your brain. You're having a richer experience in terms of life. And what happens is, we love this whole thing about curiosity rather than judgment in NLP. So that's interesting. Wonder what that perspective is. Let's learn, let's expand our own experience. And by doing that, you know, people find that they get light bulb moments throughout the whole of the courses. And by the end, it's like, wow, this is amazing. I would say, though, the day that I turn around and say, I know it all, is the day that I know nothing, all right? Because we're always learning. I read either a personal or professional development book, and I read 10 pages of that every single day, okay? So I'm always learning. I've always got books on the go or listening to podcasts, or because we don't stay still. The world's moving, especially neuroscience, you know, the whole ideas around neuroplasticity, for example. 10 years ago, no one knew about it. Now everyone is starting to learn about it. And like the layman's understanding of neuroscience, I think I was saying this on Tuesday, is 60 years behind research. So if you think about that at the moment, David, techie man, think of your phone, right? 60 years ago, what was our phones like? Well, that's the majority of the people in the streets' understanding of how your own brain works. Yeah, dial up, hello, operator, can you connect me? Yeah, can you imagine that? And now, this is my joy, is to share this with people, because we can start to use that neuroscience so that we can make changes, and we can rewire and reprogram and have a different outcome. So we don't have to be limited by things that have happened in the past. We can pop down our old baggage and move forward. So yeah, so that was a very long answer to your question. I apologize, but it's so like incredible, I think, that you can learn this stuff and have a different experience. So yeah.
Now, Emma, one of the really great things that you shared, and it's always something that's resonated with me for years and years and years, was the words that you use, which is under promise and over deliver. I think it's such an important thing, because there's so many people out there that will set the bar so high from the outset and make all the promises in the world, and they will never get close to it for whatever reason. They knew they probably couldn't in the first place, but they just wanted to win the business, whatever it is. So they just really put it right up here, and it makes it very hard to please someone then, because you can't wow them, because you've given them everything at the outset, or maybe haven't. So that was really, really, really important. But have you ever experienced that scenario in your own business or other businesses you support, where both ways, maybe they've overpromised and underdelivered, or underdelivered and overpromised?
Yeah, well, I guess it is life, isn't it? That happens often, that somebody that, you know, I remember when we did all sorts of things, so personal life, building work, that sort of thing. And yes, don't worry, you'll be in and you'll have the heating by Christmas. Christmas came and went. I had no kitchen, no heating, and I was freezing. Seriously, it was like, had I known that, I probably would have moved out. So that, of course. And I think the lesson for us is like, so what can we do about it? How can we, within our business, think about things in a slightly different way? How can we say, okay, let's put some realistic parameters around, and then learn how we can delight our customers? So yeah, definitely. As much as I can, I'm a woman of my word. We are all human, though. Let's just be honest. Things can slip through the net, but that's the whole thing around being open and honest with people, and saying, actually, hang on a second. You know, like this afternoon, I was emailing somebody. I sent an email, and they'd already emailed me. So I went straight back going, sorry, just seen your email. Let's have a chat about it. You know, we are human, but being able to say, hey, I made a mistake, I'm really sorry. Also, it's a big thing in business. It's a big thing in relationships. It's about trust, right? So it's about trust. If I'm open and honest with you, if I have, my core of integrity there, that I can turn around and say, hey, David, I said I was going to do something tomorrow. I will do my utmost to get there, but it may be 4 o'clock rather than 3. Then at least beforehand, rather than 3 o'clock's come and gone and 4 o'clock's come and gone and you've not heard from me. It's about communication. So yes, absolutely as a core principle, but also let's communicate, let's talk. Let's drop that quick note and say, by the way, this is where we're at, because most people will actually appreciate that. They'll appreciate that open and honest stuff. So yeah, definitely.
It's very, very human, right? To make mistakes, that's how we learn. Okay, I'm a bit concerned because we seem to be growing into a culture where mistakes aren't accepted. Right? No one can admit that they actually I've messed up there. I got that wrong, but I've learned from it, and I'm gonna do better. I think that's from a young business perspective. I kind of like the idea that just have a go, right? Have a go and see how it develops. Certainly now, launch the product. It's not quite finished, but get feedback and tweak it. That seems to be a more modern view. But to do that, you've got to admit that that's not perfect. And I don't think that perfection even exists. Yeah. If it did, no point even chasing it, because by the time we get there, it's shifted. It looks different. It's something else. One thing I must talk to you, right, before time runs out, Emma. I know we met in Waterstones, and you're a writer. Okay, so published 14, I think it is, children's books.
Yep.
Okay, awesome, right? I can just imagine that joy that you bring to us and to business appearing in those books. Okay, there's a lot of lucky little ones out there reading your stuff. But you're also writing a book about NLP. So yes. you're transitioning, right, from a very young audience into an adult business style, I can imagine, audience. How's that transition working out for you?
It's really interesting. So my children's books, majority are in rhyme. Okay, so I write in rhyme, so they are for the very little ones and early reader chapter books with lots of coloured pictures and fun adventures, and it says a lot about my brain, to be honest, because it's all about the how children think and all of this sort of thing. But because of my business, people have asked me, because the way I train is very practical. It's very much about, it's not just a theory, it's about how we use that in our actual lives to make change. Yeah, the theory is great, that's awesome, there'll be that in there, but actually practically what can I do? So it is really interesting, and what I've discovered is that I talk very much quicker than I type, as you probably can tell. And my brain works really, really quickly. So the whole thing has been a complete shift. So I've actually dictated it and then written it up. So the whole process is so different, and the content and getting it organized and in the order, and because a story, you have a natural flow, right? So you don't have the end at the beginning. Whereas with NLP, there's so much that I want to share with people. It's like, right, logical sequence. So it's been really interesting. Multiple Post-it notes. And I just have to say, the thing you were saying about failure and feedback and innovation, that actually, I love the story of the Post-it notes. So the Post-it note company were trying to create a glue. You guys probably know this. Well, if you've ever used Post-it notes, one thing that you can guarantee is not going to stick forever, right? But if they'd chucked that out of the window and gone, well, that didn't work, that was a failure, we wouldn't have got those gorgeous little Post-it notes that I use every single day. So Nick, you're so right that actually we need to be creative, we need to be innovative, we need to be human. So yes, so I have multiple Post-it notes of all sorts of topics and stuff, and it's been absolutely fascinating. And actually, I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying it. Yeah,
you can tell. You can tell. Brilliant.
So Emma, we're coming very close to the end of you joining us here today in our studio, and we started the show, Nick and I, asking our audience how they've found the last 12 months since lockdown began on March the 23rd. How have you found it from your own personal perspective and also from business? Has it been challenging at times? I think for most of us had a challenge or two, but how have you found it personally?
Yeah, it's been a really interesting year, isn't it? It's been a really interesting year. On the positives, I've done an awful lot more exercise, bizarrely. I used to do an early morning swim, which obviously has stopped. So I used to do a 7 o'clock swim, but instead been going out on bike and walking and all of yoga and all sorts of stuff like that. So obviously missing family, missing friends. You love travel. Okay, that used to be our big thing. So it's been really interesting. However, the adaptation and the appreciation of my own home, has grown hugely. Business-wise, I put a lot more online, and some of the stuff I will have a blended model going forward. So some courses will be online, some will be face-to-face. But like our taster sessions, they will still be kept online because then people from all over can join. So I think there's been loads of learnings, and I want to keep those learnings, like you say, as we move back into whatever the new normal is. There's certain things that I do want to keep, and I want to, appreciate those things that I've learned during lockdown and keep them in place. So yeah, definitely, it's been interesting. Definitely.
And you've got a taster session coming up, haven't you? When is the next one? Because I should be on this.
Cool. So the next one is on the 19th of May. I had one this morning, so literally just missed it, but 19th of May for 2 hours at 10 o'clock. So yeah, all the info is on my website, which is achieveyourgreatness.co.uk. But yeah, it's just like I share with you some amazing tools about understanding how we process information, why we behave the way we do, and a beautiful tool for change. So lots of content there and lots of practical stuff that you can take away and use. So yeah. Awesome.
Emma, it's been absolute delight. I know we've been in the same room twice this week now. People will start to talk, but it's always a pleasure to have you certainly here today on the show. So thank you very much for joining us. I'm going to pop you back into the green room. You can sit there and sip on your champagne. If we had a champagne, we would have sent it to you, but you can sit there and enjoy the rest of the show. From me, and no doubt from Nick, stay safe and good luck with the business going forwards as well.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Cheers.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Wow, Nick. There we go. That's our first guest in the hot seat this morning. Or sorry, this afternoon. It's afternoon, isn't it? I'm getting all my days and times mixed up. I think we've all done that over the last 12 months. Wednesdays become Fridays. Fridays become Sundays.
Yeah.
It does a little bit kind of woof. Everything's happening at once. But what a great start to today's show, hearing from Emma and how to achieve your greatness.
Oh man, I want to stretch my global map. Right, I think that idea of being far more curious about it, stretch your map, is we should all be taking lessons from that. Fantastic, great kind of insights. But seriously, makes you think. Right? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it well? Can I do it better? Should I be more curious? Is it congruent? Yeah, brilliant. So much to learn and to develop from that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So if you're listening in, maybe you're listening on the Clubhouse app, maybe you're watching on YouTube or Facebook. If you've got any questions that you want to put to Nick or I, or of course you want to shout out, then do put that into the chat box and we will, with our pleasure, give your business or you as an individual a big shout out to the rest of the world, because we're broadcasting globally and we're a bit like Nick, we might be hitting the International Space Station as well. You never know. Maybe on the rocket, on the next SpaceX rocket heading up to the moon or Mars when we get there. God, we could be broadcasting to Mars in the future. Anyway, Nick, I think what we're going to do, we're going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, we're going to get our second guest into a hot seat because it's going to be exciting. Well, there we go. Feet on the ground. Okay.
Great company.
Absolutely. And of course, if you want to sponsor this, Nick and I are not looking for lots of money. We're looking for a little bit of help. If you want to be part of the show and have your advert put out there, what can you do for us? How can you help grow our audience? We want to reach all parts of the world and have more people coming on this show, talking about what they do, how they achieve success, as we heard from Emma, And that leads very nicely into our next guest, who I'm going to bring onto the show now, because this gentleman has achieved lots of success, got a great story to tell, and I hope he's going to share with us all the details as well. Welcome, please give a big round of applause, virtually of course, to Mr. Gary Dash. Good afternoon, Gary.
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening. How are we doing? Are we okay?
Well, I think we're doing all right. I think, yeah, it's been a busy one. And yourself?
Yeah, very good, very good. Cannot complain whatsoever.
Good. Now, great.
I've never heard, mate. Gary, I've never heard you complain, mate, at all.
Because nobody listens even when you do.
You're just driven with positivity, my friend.
It's being around you two. How can I not bring extra energy when I'm around you two lovely gentlemen?
Oh, it's so nice of you. So sweet for you to say. Gary, welcome onto the show. Thank you for joining us. I think with a lot of our guests, we do have a good rapport and good relationship we've built over time. Nick and I have been running businesses for, well, I suppose we could probably put the numbers together and hit 50, I reckon, between us, Nick. So we have built lots of relationships, but it's great to have people on here that we've spent time in the room with, had conversations with, listened to the content that you deliver, Gary, because you are what I'm going to call a real vlogger. Every day you're putting good quality content out there on your social channels, Facebook. Every morning I'm waking up to a video on there of you sharing something, and a bit like Nick and I, you're trying to give away something for nothing. You're trying to educate and inform. Tell us a little bit more about your journey, though, Gary, and what it is that you're striving to achieve, because you've got a couple of different businesses that you are kind of involved with and running these days.
Yeah, I have. So I became a mortgage broker. Well, my first job when I left school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And after some temporary jobs, I said to my dad, I don't know what I want to do. And he said, well, why don't you work for a bank? Because they're going to be around for ages. And you're an office worker. I definitely haven't got these hands dirty at any point in my working career. And I went to work for the Woolwich in Chelmsford. And I was put on a cashier desk. And I was great within a couple of weeks. I've always been in sales, really, watching my dad do it. And the long story short is I was moving people from the cashier desk to get an account opened. 2 weeks, I got promotion. Then I was good at getting people from there to the mortgage and the financial advisor. 2 weeks, they said, do you want to go on a mortgage course? All right. I was 21. I wasn't really thinking about anything other than alcohol and girls at 21, to be honest. So that was it. So after I got qualified, they moved me to a little tiny village called Southwood and Ferris, where the age demographic does not need a mortgage. And that set me on a path of job hopping for a period of time. And I went to London. I went for a brokerage that made me drive up and down the country. And my final job was back in Chelmsford, 2005. And I was a mortgage advisor. There was another girl with me and the owner. And between the three of us, we grew the company to £100,000 a month within inside 11 months. And Emma and I were doing all the hard work, and Pete was in the cinema every day. So I just said to my dad, I know how to do it now. Can I have $2.5 grand? I want to go self-employed. So in 2006, went self-employed just after agreeing to buy my first flat, which some people thought I was mad, having just taken on a mortgage. But I knew I'd make it work. And I had 2 years being a mortgage broker on my dining room table. I'd go to the gym at 3 o'clock with my friends. I would go and do client appointments in the evening. I'd wake up whenever I wanted. It was fantastic. Then we got hit by the credit crunch. And in the space of 1 day, my business literally dropped off a cliff and I had nothing that I could do about it. So I diversified and did insurance for 7 years up until 2015. Ended up building a business to almost 7 figures that I absolutely hated. Made me go back to work 3 days after my first daughter was born. I did no marketing for 10 years, which was just my biggest mistakes. I made so many mistakes and had so many failures, lost so much money, but still managed to have success because of my kind of proactive nature that I've seen my dad have, and discipline. And luckily, the house that I'm now in, I went to my bank, having had my best year financially, and said, can I move? They went, no, because of how you earn your income. So I spent 3 days ringing all the mortgage lenders to find effectively an opportunity within a niche environment of self-employed mortgages. So in the October when we moved in, I downsized my team of 13 back to 2, me and my PA. And I started having done one mortgage all over again as a self-employed mortgage expert. But I'd spoken to hundreds. And then that started me on a whole journey. I vowed that I wouldn't do what I'd always done because I'd end up getting what I'd always got. And this brings to back what you said at the beginning. I realized, having seen people doing it in fitness, that social media was key. So I started to produce video. I joined social media Facebook groups. I joined business owner Facebook groups. I asked loads of questions. I did NLP and became an NLP practitioner because I had a few limiting beliefs, as they're called, to overcome. And then that started me on. I just started serving videos, started posting on social media. In the June of 2016, I was doing video. In the October, I was doing live videos. 2017, I wrote a book, which is an Amazon bestseller, called The Self-Employed Mortgage Guide. After the release of that, my industry started asking me for help. And I then started a Facebook group for my industry. That's now 2,000 advisors. My brokerage won Best Small Brokerage in the UK in 2019 at the Oscars of our industry. And now I've got it's fully automated, fully systemized, fully processed. I've got an operations manager in place, a team of advisors. It runs itself. My job is strategy and marketing. And then I spend 70% of my time coaching and mentoring, teaching and training my industry on all the mistakes that I made and how not to make the same ones around business development, marketing, social media, lead generation. And I built a 6-step formula to building a more successful business. So hopefully that's a long-winded answer to a question.
Where do we start, Gary, with that? What a great story, right? What a something for everybody who's ever considered either starting a business or in a business right now. There's something in there for everybody, because you're not in business for that many years before you kind of know it's a roller coaster. And sometimes it's great and sometimes it's difficult, really difficult. And I imagine a lot of people are looking at the last 12 months and thinking, where did my industry go? But it sounds like, well, okay, so what else can we do? You know, and I'm glad you're no longer doing something that you hate. I've done stuff that I've hated, and it's probably the most demoralizing thing. Getting up every day, dragging your ass out of the house, thinking, I hate this, absolutely hate it. What's the best bit, Gary, out of all of the stuff that you've done over those not that many years, as it turns out? What's the best bit about it?
The best bit about the whole thing?
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer in everything happens for a reason, and you are where you are meant to be based on your own circumference or your circle at that point in time, you know, your comfort zone. And, you know, I quote unquote built a successful business in 2015, but it took me 9 years to build that. In building that and having over that period of time, you know, my best mate bought in 2009. I bought him out in 2011. We had upskilled too quickly and I downsized and started all over again in 2012. You mentioned the roller coaster. 2012 to 2015, carried on doing what I'd always done, but did it on my terms and wasn't pulled pillar to post. All of those kind of lessons lead you to where you actually get to. And I think the best thing is realizing that in getting to that journey of almost 7 figures, it took me from 2006 till 2015 to get there. Having started all over again on January 2016, realizing I was the problem, my being really knowledgeable as a mortgage broker, but not really knowledgeable on marketing, sales, business, finances. Actually, learning that stuff, I've got to twice the size, more automated, more systemized, more family time than I've ever had in half the amount of time. And I think that's really I'm very grateful for the first 10 years, to be honest, because that failure led to success.
Yeah, but you had lots of successes. You know, let's be honest here. You know, everyone has an element of failures or wrong turns along their journey. You know, they end up looping back rounds, and as you said, you kind of restarted. But of course, you're much wiser at that point when you kind of almost start again. My question actually is an interesting one, because you mentioned about a friend that you had come into the business, is with you for a couple of years, you brought him out. First question, are you still friends? And was that the reason for, and you might not want to answer, you might be listening, couldn't he? But are you still friends? Did you fall out, or was it you just realised that actually this is not going to work together?
Another big mistake is, and it's a great question because this is something that anyone who wants to go into partnership or is in partnership really needs to get right. We didn't clearly sit down like you do in a marriage and say, these are my jobs, these are my jobs, or these are your jobs. We agree on what we want to do. But we both want to do this one. Yeah, but I like it more. I'm slightly better at it, whatever it might well be. You have to have a clear line in the sand. And you have to respect each other enough to, make sure that each other's doing it, but you don't constantly bang on poking, going, have you done this? Have you done this? Like my wife does. Have you taken the bins out? Have you taken the bins out? We're all guilty of that, I think, at some point.
She's not listening.
No, she's given up now and she just does them herself. But that was what we didn't do. We were both kind of entrepreneurial. We both loved sales. We didn't sit down and say, right, this is what we're ultimately going to do and how we're going to do it. And because we didn't do that, we both were pulling in the same direction, but it got to a point where actually he was spending more time out of the office where I was spending a lot of time in the office. There was more personal going on where I thought I was doing the right thing back then. And that was actually a big mistake. Spending, get in the office at 8 o'clock, leave at 7 o'clock. That's what you must do to be successful. I realize that's not the case at all now. But that was where it really got to a point. I just realized that I'd made decisions because I'd been led by him in those 2 years rather than actually, and it was on my honeymoon. So I got married and then went on honeymoon, funnily enough, 3 days from now, 10 years ago. And I realized on that time where I reflected and went, this isn't right. I've done things I wouldn't normally do. I've made decisions that I wouldn't normally make. And neither of us are leading and no one's taking control. And it's like anything. We were so in each other's pockets. We were best friends beforehand. We'll see each other if there's a mates group, but it's like the end of a relationship. You don't go suddenly spending time with your ex.
Yeah. Really interesting. Because I had a business partner for 20 something years and we got on extremely well. Back in 2014, I think it was, I went my separate way. We're still very good friends. It was a very different, amicable split because I wanted different things. It was my midlife crisis, as I kind of branded it up at the time. Most people go out and buy a Ferrari or something like that. No, I sold out of a business. And, I don't regret that decision. And he's still running the business and doing extremely well running the business. And, I still support and I would always recommend and refer if I could. But, we change as individuals. We have different requirements, different family needs. And that was kind of part of my reason for change. So it's really interesting to hear other people say, I didn't pick on it because for an awkward situation, it's just really interesting to understand how partnerships can and don't work, and family relationships as well. We heard, previously on a previous show about how relationships can be tethered at times, certainly if it's family. So really interesting. That's why I just kind of picked on that particular question.
A story for another day, but that's my family effectively. My eldest brother and my dad are in business, and that is not a good combination.
Not always healthy.
No.
I wonder how many family businesses, when the new generation comes in with new ideas and a slightly different vision, it's kind of real kind of loggerheads. Must be really a difficult time in any business journey. First of all, congratulations on the anniversary in 3 days, Gary. Excellent work. Something you said in and there's so much great stuff to kind of glean from what you've been up to. Is that ability to essentially work from anywhere, right? Certainly over the last 12 months, and I'm reading the reports. 12 months in, we spoke about it briefly earlier. We've adopted certain habits over the last 12 months, and a lot of them are going to keep. And that working from home, okay, that might not help the family relationships too much, but working from home, definitely a habit that a lot of people want to keep. All right, that balance between work life, right? You're in the office from 8 o'clock till 7. That's no way to live, is it? But it's the thing that we feel we must do. I think that's shifted. Right? I'd like to think, even working from home, we can still figuratively close the door on it, or working from absolutely anywhere. Do you now, are you bound to the office now, or are you very much part of, I'll work anywhere that I wish?
Yeah, great question. And it's so key. I'm now anywhere I wish. And this stemmed from part of that journey from 2006. I got my first office in 2009, which I rented from my dad, funnily enough. And then I had a variety of offices over the years. And where I started to realize that actually as a director, it was more effective for me to be out of the office than in the office. In 2018, I started to set my systems and processes up so that we actually could work from anywhere. So my CRM moved from an archaic server in the office to onto a digital cloud-based platform. And my first recruit joined in 2019, and she was based in Wales. And this was the method of testing, the CRM and the IT and the relationships and how it would all work. Now everybody's remote. And I said to my wife at the end of 2019, I don't think I need an office I don't think I need an office anymore. And the lease was actually up in my office in July 2020. And I'd said, I don't think I'm going to renew it. I really don't. I'm spending 1 or 2 days in the office. I don't think we need it. Jack's pretty cool working from home. I think everybody else is all remote and works from home. Why can't I work from home? And that was my goal in 2018, having been chained to a desk because I thought it was the right thing to do, was to make it all remote. So this kind of forced my hand. The playroom got quickly turned into half office, half playroom. Facing out the window was my office, and if I turned around, it was full of toys. Not as nice as David's background there. And we had a closed door policy because the kids were at home, and I said to the kids, look, if the door's closed, it means I'm on the phone or I'm on a Zoom or something like that. You must not come in. But then if it's open, play away to your heart's content, do whatever. If the kitchen door's shut, you must keep the noise down because that's a really important thing. We just kind of set some rules and boundaries. And I've got 3 kids, 3, 6, and 8. And then my brother-in-law's a builder or roofer. And when we got to about July time, he was like, I've got no work for 3 weeks. And we'd been talking about a garden room. And effectively within the space of about 3 weeks, we just sort of made a decision. And the next thing, there was a 20 by 12 foot garden room at the end of the garden, which I'm now in. And it's superb. But I will say, I do miss people. So I have got an office for my mortgage brokerage in Evesham in Gloucestershire. And that's setting up there. There's 4 of them in there. We're getting 4 Kickstarters in, and they're going to be joining us too. We've just increased the office size to cater for 14 based on our growth plans. But for the coaching and the mentoring side, I definitely want to bring an office here. We're about to launch a social media agency in the next couple of weeks. And I definitely want to bring an office environment, even if people have the choice, whether it's 2 days in the office or 3 days in the office. I miss that banter, that team camaraderie. The culture is really hard to maintain over Zoom and things like that. And I think it's nice to have something central, something you can call a head office.
Yeah, that water cooler moment as well, where you can just go off and have a chat about this, that, or the other. It could be absolute rubbish. As you say, it's that banter, it's the camaraderie that comes from it, which you can't get really, remotely. It happens naturally. It just happens there and there at that particular time. I absolutely get it. And someone that's worked remotely for many, many years, and then had offices, not just in the UK, but around the world as well. There is something about going to the office. But I do wonder if the way we work now has changed forever, and the way the expectations of individuals as well as business owners, the boards of companies, etc. I love to see how that's going to shape out over the coming weeks, months, and years. Really interesting. Well, Gary,
I'm with you, Gary. Hold on a second, Dave. I miss people as well, right? So whatever the solution is, more people working from home, less people commuting. I still want an opportunity to mix with other humans. My stuff. It's all about human interaction, human first communication. I'm desperate for those kind of face-to-face interactions where you can really kind of build relationships.
Yeah, without a doubt. That's one of the key things now. I actually planned last year 24 face-to-face training events for my mentees. And as soon as we got the nod that it was not happening, and I just recruited a PA and an events manager and all that to kick it all off at the, February, March last year. And I moved it all online, and it's been fantastic. We've had exponential growth of the business because it's all online, but we've also had exponential dropout rate because it's so hard to maintain a proper relationship and have a real good conversation. And we put community managers in and accountability buddies in and all these other things. But if there was a physical face-to-face event once a quarter, once every month, once every 6 weeks, I guarantee that would increase results, retention rates, relationships, ideas, opportunities. And yeah, I can't wait I got an email today actually for an event that I've been invited to, and they're doing it digitally, but they're also doing it face-to-face. I think it's at the end of May. I'm definitely going. There's going to be some inappropriate touching when I get back to face-to-face with people. So.
Great work.
Well, Gary, it's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you, have you on the show, hear more about your journey and the future it holds as well, because you've got some exciting stuff in the pipeline, things I wasn't even aware of. Social media agency sounds fabulous, which means we're probably going to have to get you back on a future show to find out more about those bits as well. So we will keep you in mind as things progress for you, Gary. Give us a nod, let us know, and Nick and I would have you back here anytime to talk about how things are panning out for you in 2021 and beyond. So, Gary,
it's been a pleasure, Gary.
Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, absolute pleasure, and we'll definitely see you soon, hopefully face to face, of course. Cheers for now.
Cheers.
Well, Nick, we're coming close to another fantastic show. We've got about 6 minutes left on the clock. It's been a busy one. Lots going on. Some, great guests on today with Gary and with Emma. But what we're going to do is we're going to take a quick ad break. And when we come back, I think we're going to talk about what's in the news. What is happening. Well, 6 minutes and counting, Nick. Let's start to wrap up today's show. What a great show it's been. What some great content's been shared with us. We've heard from Emma. We've heard from Gary. Different businesses, but both got such positive. And, their whole mentality is, we're going to make this. We're going to succeed. We can do this, and nothing's going to stop us.
Really inspirational stuff, right? I've been running a business for a while. And you can't help not to kind of think, right, what else can I do? Like, what the hell? Gary's got half a dozen businesses by the sound of it. What else could I branch into? Should I get so many kind of thoughts and ideas and opportunity? And Emma just sprinkles all that with great joy and works through the process of how to make that a reality. It's been a phenomenal show. Once again, a show that makes me think quite deeply about business, and so grateful for people coming on and sharing that kind of knowledge and experience. It's invaluable stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've got some great guests lined up for the future weeks as well. People are kind of going, it'd be great to come on there and share with, people around the world about, what I do and what I do, my mistakes I've made, the successes that I've achieved, how that might help others and inspire others. So we do have a great lineup of guests coming over the coming weeks. But if you would like to come on the show and join Nick and I, we would encourage you to drop us a line. Let us know. You can do that in a number of different ways. Of course, you can connect with us on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. You can visit the website, unie.co.uk. More information on there as well. Mainly, an easy way to really get hold of us, quick and easy, is to email us. Email us at hello@unie.co.uk. Just pop into the subject box. I'd love to be on the show. And then what we'll do is we'll reach out to you and we can have a bit of a chat and find out, when we can get you on the show. And we're looking for businesses of all different backgrounds, shapes and styles. It doesn't matter if you're a fisherman or you're running a social media business, you're based in Scotland or you're down in Cornwall. We want you. And of course, if you're not in the UK, because we know we've got international viewers out there as well, it'd be great for you to come on the show and tell us, how things are happening in the US or over in Dubai or down in South Africa. So do get in touch. We'd love to have you here.
A fisherman? Well, where did that come from?
I don't know. I think it was the whole Brexit thing and fishermen.
I'm just wondering how many fishermen are listening in right now thinking, did he say fisherman? I'm on. Right. Hello at uni.co.uk.
There's the challenge, Nick. Can we get a fisherman on this show in the coming weeks? Because now you've just set the challenge. I've got to find a fisherman to bring onto the show to talk about, the fisheries, how Brexit's affected them. And I know we've steered away from Brexit a little bit, but let's be honest, it's impacting all of us, regardless if you're exporting, importing, it's impacting all of our businesses. And I don't want to get into the wrongs and rights of Brexit. Should you have voted in, should you have voted out, the decision's made, that's it. But what does it look like going forward? So maybe that's something subject we pick up on a future show, Brexit.
Well, I tell you what, you're right there. A fisherman would know on the blooming coal face exactly what it looks and feels like, the reality of it. No, good call. I'm not poo-pooing the idea. Bring on the fisherman. So what's in the news, Dave? What's in the news this week before we wrap up?
Well, really, this week has been quite an interesting week. There's lots of stuff going on. But I think the biggest thing we kind of picked up, obviously, is the anniversary since lockdown started. As I said at the beginning of the show, since March the 23rd last year, we have companies and individuals still on furlough up until the end of September time. And I'm quite interested to understand how that's going to pan out. I think the biggest thing for us is that someone like John Lewis, okay, a big brand name, been around for, a long, long time in our high streets. Most of us will be buying from them maybe online or visiting the stores, of course, when you're allowed out. And sadly, they're closing more stores. If you are in Chelmsford, which is, of course, our stomping ground, to say the least, the Chelmsford store gets to stay, which is fabulous. But then no shock there. It's a brand new store in Bond Street. It's only been around for a very, very short period of time. And obviously, it's probably got very hefty long-term leases on it. But what does this mean for the high street? We've got the likes of John Lewis. We've got more working from home. We've got Spotify saying work from anywhere. So not even work from home, work from anywhere. Where does that take us? So for me, there's lots of stories. The anniversary of Brexit, of COVID, lockdown, the stories of these high street stores shedding more jobs and unfortunately disappearing from our high streets probably forever.
Yeah, it's we touched on it. The business continues to evolve, right? If traditional bricks and mortar stores close, Nationwide have said to their 13,000 staff, work anywhere. Right, booming business. My mate across the road has got a new big shed kind of office in his back garden. He's not going to go back to an office. Right, Gary's got an awesome kind of outdoor space as well. It raises big questions about high street and office space and all of the ancillaries that kind of surround that. All of the people that service those people, those spaces. It does raise some big questions, which I know we'll be picking up on and talking to our guests about in future shows.
Absolutely. So future shows, Brexit, what the high street looks like, and of course, we're going to get that all-important fisherman to come on the show.
Bring on the fisherman.
But that's next time. So until next time, it's bye-bye from me, David Bell.
And bye from Nick Looby.
Bye-bye.